Holocaust Memories Never Forget. A Gentile baby boomer's painful journey into the Shoah. Section 7, Death Marches. Part 7. From early in the war until May 1945. The Death March from Dachau to the German town of Tegernsee. With Allied forces pressing further east into Germany, the evacuation of Dachau began. On the 27th of April, between 6,000 and 7,000 prisoners, most of whom were Jews, were forced marched south toward Tegernsee, located 40 miles away from the foothills of the Alps. As in all the other marches, many of the prisoners died from exhaustion, exposure, weakness, illness, and being shot. When American troops were a short distance from Dachau, which is barely 10 miles from Munich, they smelled rotting flesh and came across 30 rail cars filled with corpses. These cars had originated in Buchenwald, but this train never made it to Dachau proper. At Dachau, records were found showing that over 67,000 prisoners were currently registered at this camp and its subcamps, but this didn't take into account the many thousands of prisoners who were killed shortly after arrival and were never documented. The surrender of Wernher von Braun and 500 other Nazi scientists. As noted in Part 5, one of the most brutal and deadly death marches originated from the secret underground Mittelwerk factory, where tens of thousands of slave laborers were used to assemble the V-1 and V-2 rockets. Both the Western Allies and the Soviets were anxious to capture as many of the leading German scientists and researchers as they could, and high on their list was Dr. Wernher von Braun, the man who created the V-1 and V-2 rockets and the Messerschmitt 262 jet fighter. As the Allies in the West and the fast-moving Soviets in the East sought to be the first army to capture Berlin, Himmler ordered the SS to ship Dr. von Braun and 500 other scientists south by train to Oberammergau, which was located in the Bavarian Alps. From the moment these men were gathered together, the guards had standing orders to shoot them all if there was any chance they might be captured. Dr. von Braun convinced the SS commander in charge of their group to disperse them in various places near the town in order to protect them from being killed by Allied bombers. Following this, von Braun secretly obtained forged papers, commandeered a train, then ordered the engineer to take the entire group west, away from the approaching Soviet army. Once Himmler found out how he had been tricked, he ordered the SS to execute every one of these men on sight. After the train entered an area controlled by the Allies, Magnus von Braun, Werner's brother and also one of the rocket scientists, hopped off and rode a bicycle up to an American soldier. Speaking in broken English, Magnus identified himself, convinced the young man that his brother had invented the V-2 rocket, and that there was a trainload of scientists behind him who wanted to surrender to the Americans. Long before Dr. von Braun's surrender, it was clear to President Truman that the Soviet Union was going to be a major threat to Western democracy around the world, and it was imperative to capture as many of Germany's top scientific and medical minds as possible before the Soviets could find them. To attain that goal, Truman created a top-secret project called Operation Paperclip, which authorized U.S. military personnel in the OSS, the Office of Special Services, which later became the CIA, to enter Germany ahead of the front, find these men, and bring them back to the United States. Clearly putting the safety of the United States over anything related to war crimes, all records of these captured scientists were sealed after the war, and they were secretly put to work in various segments of America's defense, military, energy, and nuclear industries. Despite the fact that Dr. Wernher von Braun was complicit in the deaths of thousands of slave laborers at Mittelwerk Rocket Factory, he eventually became the director of the National Aeronautics and Space Administration and was deeply involved in the rapid advancement of America's space program. This ends Section 7, Death Marches. Next is Section 8, which covers the Nuremberg War Crimes Tribunal that took place in 1945 and 1946, as well as some of the other trials that were held over the next 6 decades.